Wars of the Roses were a turbulent struggle for the English throne, a time of fierce rivalry between the houses of York and Lancaster, and they were marked by battles, political intrigue and shifting alliances. The Battle of Wakefield, which took place right below this very castle, was to be a turning point in English history.
Sandal was one of the most architecturally and militarily important castles in the north of England, and the area just below the castle over there is the site of the Battle of Wakefield.
After the Battle of Northampton in 1460, Richard, the Duke of York, attempted to persuade Parliament to accept his claim to the throne of England. Now his move was rejected, but an Act of Parliament was passed that would allow Richard to become the king on the death of Henry VI. Henry's wife, Margaret of Anjou, reacted angrily to this because it dispossessed her son Edward, the Prince of Wales. So Margaret began assembling a Lancastrian army here in the north of England. The Duke of York and his forces found themselves in a precarious position here in Wakefield, whilst the Lancastrians, led by Queen Margaret of Anjou, were closing in.
It's the 30th of December, 1460, and one of the most pivotal battles of the Wars of the Roses is about to start. Vast numbers of soldiers on both sides would have been conscripts with very little training in the art of warfare, but many would have been livery soldiers, professional soldiers, loyal to their lord. These men were the sons and grandsons of the veterans of Agincourt. These men have been in battle before, and they know exactly what to expect. No mercy, no quarter, and they're going into it again. The Duke of York, having vastly inferior numbers compared to the Lancastrians, marched out to give battle. We don't actually know why the Duke left the safety of Sandal Castle. Was he given false information from spies, true to the Lancastrian cause, within his closest military advisors? That we'll never actually know. The grand old Duke of York, he had 10,000 men. He marched them up to the top of the hill, and when battle was in sight, he marched them down again. The battle starts, as most do during the medieval period, with a terrifying and deadly archery engagement from both the Lancastrian and Yorkist armies, the result of which is hundreds of casualties, dead and wounded within a matter of minutes. The Duke, having no choice but to engage in a head-on cavalry charge, commits to battle, along with his men-at-arms on foot. The Yorkists are encircled by the vastly superior numbers of the Lancastrians. Swords, pikes and poleaxes clash in bitter hand-to-hand fighting. The Yorkists are butchered, along with the Duke. The battlefield of Wakefield is a Lancastrian victory.
The death of Richard, Duke of York, meant that his son Edward inherited the leadership of the Yorkist cause. Edward won significant battles as the wars continued, and he established his claim to the English throne when he defeated Henry VI and the Lancastrian army at the Battle of Towton, and Henry fled into exile. The Wars of the Roses escalated when Edward IV died in 1483. Now his son was still a child, so Richard, Duke of Gloucester, was appointed Lord Protector. Richard eventually claimed the throne for himself, but this caused further conflict because there were many who challenged Richard's claim to the throne. The Battle of Bosworth was the decisive battle in these wars, and it saw the death of Richard III, the rise of Henry Tudor to the throne, and it marked the beginning of the Tudor era in England.